Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on medical device usability, highlights of European regulation and the latest standards. My name is Sarah Jafari, and I'm a medical device certification project manager specialized on active medical devices here at GMED North America. In today's webinar, as introduction, we'll do a quick overview of principal causes of medical errors and how can we prevent them. Then we'll talk about usability, what is it and why it's important, and what does it mean when applied to medical device field. We will talk about usability and European regulation and standards. Next, we will go through an overview of usability standards and the latest changes. We will also talk about medical device quality management system requirements regarding usability, and finally, conclusion. Medical errors are one of the causes of mortality in hospitals. As reported by the Institute of Medicine, in 1999, up to 98,000 deaths was attributed to medical errors, mainly caused by faulty systems, processes, and conditions that lead people to make mistakes or fail to prevent them. Poor design of medical devices may lead to errors that can deter patient treatment, diagnostic, or monitoring, and in some cases can result even in harm or death. Examples such as administration of incorrect medication or dose, incorrect interpretation of data, or incorrect device setting for therapy are proofs of poor user interface design. So, what is the logical solution here? Systematic and careful design of user interface can reduce the likelihood of user error, and improve the safety of medical devices. So, what does usability mean in general? International Standard ISO 9241-11 Ergonomics of Human System Interaction Guidance on Usability define usability as the extent to which a product can be used by specified users to achieve specified goals with effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction in a specified context of use. In a simple way, usability is about effectiveness. Can users do what they want to do? It's about efficiency, the effort that users require to do, and satisfaction, how users feel about the product is of use. These parameters are affected by users, who is using the product, by their goals, what are the users trying to do with the product, and the context of use, where and how is the product being used. What is medical device usability? Now that we have an understanding of what usability is in general, let's talk about the definition of usability of medical devices. Medical device usability standards focus on usability as it relates to safety of the user interface of a medical device in development. Usability is in fact characteristics of the user interface that facilitate use, to make it easier for the user to perceive information presented by the user interface, to understand and to make decisions based on that information, to interact with the medical device to achieve goals in the intended use environment. These factors can influence safety to various degrees. Now, let's talk about usability engineering. Usability engineering is the application of knowledge about human behavior, abilities, limitation, and other characteristics to design of medical devices, including software, systems, tasks to achieve adequate usability. Please note that the term usability engineering and human factors engineering are treated synonymously by usability standards. Now, three major elements of usability engineering are user interface, and use environment. The interaction of these three elements with device in use result in either safe and effective use or correct use, or unsafe or ineffective use or use error. Now, if manufacturers want to market their medical devices in Europe, they have to demonstrate compliance to the requirement of the European Medical Device Directive and Regulations. Through next few slides, we'll discuss the European usability requirements and relevant standards. The European regulations address the usability requirements in order to minimize and reduce use errors and use-associated risks in general essential requirement of medical device directives. Here we will review requirements of the Medical Device Directive 9342 EAC. You can find requirements of the IVD directive in the newsletter published on the GMDNA website. Specific usability requirements can be found on Annex 1 of Medical Device Directive. For the exact wording, please refer to the Medical Device Directive. So essential requirement number 1 states devices must be designed and manufactured in such a way that when used under the conditions and for the purpose intended, they will not compromise the clinical conditions or the safety of patients, users, and other persons. This shall include reducing, as far as possible, the risk of use error due to the ergonomic features of the device and the environment in which the device is intended to be used. Also, it should consider technical knowledge, experience, education, and training, and where applicable, the medical and physical conditions of intended users. Essential Requirement 9.2 regarding the construction and environmental properties mentions devices must be designed and manufactured in such a way as to remove or minimize, as far as possible, the risk of injury in connection with their physical features and, where appropriate, with ergonomic features. Essential Requirement 10.2 about devices with a measuring function mentions the measurement, monitoring, and display scale must be designed in line with ergonomic principles, taking account of the intended purpose of the device. Essential Requirement 13.1 mentions each device must be accompanied by the information needed to use it safely and properly, taking account of the training and knowledge of the potential users. Other essential requirements that are affected by usability are number 2 through 6, 11.4.1, 12.8, and 12.9. By May 26, 2020, all manufacturers aiming to market their medical devices within the European Union will be required to conform to the Medical Device Regulations EU 2017/745. As Medical Device Directive and IVD Directive, Medical Device Regulations and IVD Regulations address usability concern in different sections of Annex 1 of General Requirement as below. General Requirement number 5 mentions eliminating or reducing risk related to use error. The manufacturer shall reduce, as far as possible, the risk related to ergonomic features of the device and the environment in which device is intended to be used. General Requirement 14.2 mentions devices shall be designed and manufactured in such way as to remove or reduce, as far as possible, the risk of injury in connection with their physical features, dimensional, and, where appropriate, ergonomic features. General Requirement 14.6 mentions any measurement, monitoring, or display scale shall be designed and manufactured in line with ergonomic principles, taking account of the intended purpose, user, and environmental condition in which the devices are intended to be used. So basically here we can find the same requirement regarding usability as we have seen in medical device directives. In order to show the conformity with the regulations, manufacturers can choose to comply with the Harmonized Standards. The reference of Harmonized Standard must be published in the official journal of the European Union. The latest European Harmonized Standards regarding usability, which appears on the list of the official journal, is EN 62366-2008, Application of Usability Engineering to Medical Devices. This is a process-based standard for analysis, design, verification, and validation of usability through the development cycle of the medical devices as it relates to their safety. Please note that this is an adapted version from the international standard IEC 62366-2007. However, IEC 62366-2007 has been amended on 2014. The amended version has been revised on 2015 as IEC 62366-1 or Part 1 and on 2016 as -2 or Part 2. For medical electrical equipment, there is also the collateral standard, which is harmonized as well, IEC EN 60601-1-6, 2010. The clause 4.2 of the same standard states that usability engineering process complying with the IEC 62366 shall be performed. Therefore, this standard 62366 is adapted as the main standard for demonstration of usability for all medical devices. Now let's take a closer look to the IEC 62366-1 2015. On February 2015, Part 1 of the latest version of IEC 62366, Application of Usability Engineering to Medical Devices, was officially published. This version is focusing on the usability engineering as a design and development process for the medical device user interface to identify and reduce the possibility of use errors and use-associated risks. This version streamlines the usability engineering process and has closer ties to risk management. This part of the standards targets only the safety-related part of the usability of medical devices. IEC 62366-1 2015 is not yet harmonized and does not appear on the list of the official journal of the European Union, but it has been recognized by the FDA as of August 2015 in replacement of the version 2007 of IEC 62366. The 50 pages of the new standards are broken up to three main different parts. Part 1, Body of Standards, contains scope, normative references, terms and definitions, principles, and usability engineering process. Part 2, Informative Annexes, Annex A, General Guidance and Rationale, Annex B, Examples, Annex D, Types of Medical Device Use and Examples, and Annex E, Reference to Essential Principles. And finally, Part 3, which is a normative annex, Annex C, which address legacy or UOUP. Usability engineering process allows the manufacturer to assess and mitigate risks associated with correct use and use error, like normal use. Part 2 of the same standard gives information about efficient ways to implement elements required by Part 1, and also additional information on how usability relates to attributes such as task efficiency and user satisfaction. This technical report does not contain any requirement. However, it is intended to be read in conjunction with Part 1 of the same standard. As we have just seen together, the main focus of usability standard is on usability engineering process. So let's see how does the standard defines this process. Standards describe the purpose of usability engineering process as a means to provide safety for the patient, user, and others related to usability. To achieve this, usability engineering process mitigates risks caused by usability problems associated with correct use and use errors. In fact, manufacturers can use usability engineering process to analyze, specify, and evaluate the usability of medical device. Implementing this process permits the manufacturer to deal with the unpredictability of a user and minimize use error. Usability engineering process helps manufacturers to discover hazards and hazardous situations related to the user interface, to design and implement measures to control the risk related to the user interface, and to evaluate the risk control measure. Application of risk management to medical devices is normatively referenced in IEC 62366 and also in Harmonized Standard EN 62366 2008 and is essential for its application. Risk management is in fact a decision-making process to determine acceptable risks, and all risks arising from usability have to be evaluated by risk management. However, usability engineering as a design and development process evaluates the usability and mitigate the use errors that could result in risk for medical devices. Now, let's take a look at different steps of usability engineering process as defined in Part 1 of IEC 62366 2015 and its relationship with applicable parts of risk management process. Step 1 of usability engineering process is to prepare use specifications. In fact, manufacturer should determine who will be using the device as intended user profile, determines the use environment and the operating principles. This step shall also include intended medical indication and intended patient population. This step can be referred to as the statement of intended use, which can be used as an input for the first step of risk management process. For step 2, the manufacturer should identify user interface characteristics related to safety and potential use errors. Based on user interface characteristics and use specifications, the manufacturer shall identify the use errors that are related to the user interface. This step provides details necessary to identify characteristics related to safety of medical device of risk management process. Step 3 is to identify known or foreseeable hazards and hazardous situations. This identification shall be conducted as part of risk analysis performed according to risk management process. Step 4 is to identify and describe hazard-related use scenarios. Step 5 is to select the hazard-related use scenarios for summative evaluation. And step 6 is to establish user interface specifications. Once the user interface specifications are defined, manufacturer shall establish and maintain a user interface evaluation plan as step 7, which include both formative and summative evaluation plan of the implemented user interface. Step 8 is to carry out formative evaluation during user interface design and implementation to explore the user interface, identify the need for improvement, or to confirm adequacy of the user interface. Final step is to perform summative evaluation of the usability of the user interface. In this step, the implemented user interface is subject to summative evaluation against testable requirements in the user interface evaluation plan. After summative evaluation, if use errors, hazardous situation, or hazard-related use scenarios are discovered, the manufacturer shall repeat all steps of usability engineering process. then the manufacturer shall determine if further improvement of the user interface design is necessary. If yes, usability engineering process is repeated. Otherwise, manufacturer shall evaluate the residual risk based on risk management process. Now, if the manufacturer comply with the usability engineering process as described in this standard, then the usability of medical device as it relates to safety is presumed to be acceptable. Now let's talk about part 1 of IEC 62366 2015 changes comparing to Harmonized Standard EN 62366 2008. On 2014, a normative annex has been added to the Amendment 1 of Standard IEC 62366 2007 as Annex K, and lately to the IEC 62366-1 as Annex C to address requirement of medical devices with user interface of unknown provenance or UOUP. An example of user interface of unknown provenance could be the interface of a previously designed medical device for which records of the user interface process are not available. However, since IEC 62366-1 2015 considers usability engineering as part of the product development process, it should be noted that if the user interface or part of the user interface were not developed using the processes of this standard, they are considered as unknown provenance with respect to this process. Requirement of Annex K and Annex C replace the requirement of clauses 5.1 to 5.9, 9 steps of usability engineering process to evaluate the user interface of unknown provenance. This evaluation mainly focuses on documentation of use specifications and main service functions, on post-production information review, on risk management file review, and finally on review of accompanying documents. Please note that formative evaluation and summative evaluation has been added to IEC 62366-1. The terms frequently used functions and usability verification have been removed from this standard. Also, regarding annexes, number of informative annexes reduced to 3, and UOUP formative annex remained as Annex K. Through following slides, we will review clauses of IEC 62366-1 2015 that has been slightly or completely changed comparing to the Harmonized Standard EN 62366 2008. First, Clause 4.1.1, General Requirements for Personal Competency regarding Usability Engineering Activities is added. Clause 4.1.2, a three-level approach as required by Risk Management Standard EN ISO 14971 2007, has been added to control risks related to user interface design. These three levels are inherent safety by design, protective measures in the medical device itself or in the manufacturing process, and information for safety. Clause 4.3, some elements tailoring the usability engineering effort has been specified in this clause, such as complexity of user interface and use specification, severity of the harm, extent or complexity of use specification, and presence of user interface of unknown provenance. Clause 5.2 clarify some requirements to identify user interface characteristics related to safety and use errors. Changes to Clause 5.3 is about the specification of elements to consider during the identification of hazards and hazardous situation, such as use specification including user profile, information on hazards and hazardous situation known for existing user interfaces of medical devices of a similar type, and identified use errors. Clauses 5.4 and 5.5 identify use scenarios that could lead to harm and considering them during summative evaluation. And changes to Clause 5.6 is about clarification of user interface specification requirements, consideration hazard-related scenarios, determination of the necessity of accompanying documents, and training. Clause 5.7 specifies user interface evaluation plan, objectives and methods of any planned formative and summative evaluation, and also documentation of usability test parameters, users, environment, documentation, and training. And finally, Clause 5.8 and 5.9 is about evaluation of user interface, design, implementation, and formative and summative evaluation. Please note that formative evaluation should happen iteratively during design and development process to explore unanticipated use errors, while summative evaluation happens at the end of user interface development, which is part of verification and validation of the overall medical device design to conclude that user interface can be used safely. Now, let's see how medical device quality management system incorporates usability requirements. Medical device quality management system standard clearly added the usability requirements to the design and development section in the latest version of EN ISO 13485-2016 in two clauses. First, Clause 7.3.3a, usability and safety requirements according to the intended use shall be determined and recorded as an input for design and development. And Clause 7.3.9, significance of change to usability for medical devices and its intended use shall be determined as part of control of design and development changes. Now we will see how to document usability engineering process. As per Usability Standards, IEC 62366-1 2015 and also Harmonized Standard EN 62366 2008, all aspects of usability engineering process should be documented in a usability engineering file. Usability engineering file could be an independent file, part of risk management file, or part of product design file. It may also contain pointers and references to all required documents. Please note that the usability engineering file enables efficient auditing of the design and development process. Today, the latest version of usability published on the official Journal of European Union as a harmonized standard is still EN 62366-2008. However, the International Usability Standard, which is also recognized by FDA, is IEC 62366-1 2015 and also Part 2 of the same standard published on 2016. To conclude, please note that use errors caused by inadequate medical device usability have become an increasing cause of concern. To achieve adequate usability, minimize use errors, and reduce use-associated risks, application and implementation of usability engineering process is required. And lastly, please note that usability activities should be conducted throughout all phases of design and development of medical devices. For more information on medical device usability, you can go to GMED North America website and download a PDF of our latest newsletter about this subject. Thank you very much for listening to this webinar. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email us